The sun streamed through the family home, but the brightest light in Amara's life had always been her father. Whenever he saw her, his face would light up, and he would call her "my princess," often lifting her in the air with joy. These moments of affection were her greatest treasure, but they planted a seed of bitterness in Evelyn, her mother. Though her husband never neglected her, Evelyn resented the attention he lavished on their daughter. She believed his love for Amara left little room for her. When her husband passed away suddenly, Evelyn's sorrow twisted into a growing hatred for the daughter he loved so dearly. As months turned into years, Evelyn's treatment of Amara shifted drastically. The warm embrace of a mother became cold indifference, and loving words were replaced with sharp scolding. Evelyn showed no hesitation in reminding Amara of her place in the family. "You're just a burden," she would mutter while Amara worked tirelessly around the house. Meanwhile, David, the younger sibling, was showered with affection. Evelyn would prepare his favorite meals, help him with his homework, and kiss him goodnight. Amara often watched from the shadows, tears pooling in her eyes, wondering why she was treated so differently. Despite her mother's cruelty, Amara clung to her father's memory. She whispered his words, "You're destined for greatness, my princess," like a prayer. She found solace in small moments, like when David would sneak into her room with leftovers from dinner, whispering, "You need to eat too." Though only 10 years old, David saw the injustice in their mother's actions. "Don't worry, Amara," he'd say. "One day, things will get better." His words, though simple, gave her hope on the darkest days. Evelyn's jealousy consumed her, fueling even harsher treatment. Amara was given the hardest chores, often punished for minor mistakes. One afternoon, as Amara scrubbed the kitchen floor, Evelyn stood over her with a scowl. "Why couldn't you have been like your brother?" she hissed. Amara bit her lip, holding back tears. She had learned that no amount of effort could earn her mother's love. The disparity in Evelyn's treatment of her children became more glaring with each passing day. At every meal, David's plate would be piled high with steaming food, while Amara would often go hungry or be given scraps. "David is growing. He needs his strength," Evelyn would say, her tone dismissive whenever Amara asked for a proper meal. Amara, now in her early teens, understood that her mother's love was conditional, something she could never seem to earn. She bore the brunt of all household responsibilities, waking up early to sweep, cook, and clean, while David was excused from even lifting a finger. One rainy evening, Amara hesitated as she served dinner. She could feel her empty stomach growling, but Evelyn shot her a cold glare. "What are you waiting for? Clean up the mess in the kitchen," she snapped. Amara obeyed without a word, her hands trembling as she worked through her hunger. Later that night, David crept into her room, holding a piece of bread and a glass of milk. "Here, Amara, I saved this for you," he whispered. Tears welled in her eyes as she hugged her younger brother tightly. "Thank you, David," she murmured, her voice cracking. Though he was just a child, his kindness became her lifeline. The cruelty didn't stop at neglect. Evelyn constantly belittled Amara, calling her useless and comparing her to David. "Why can't you be smart and obedient like your brother?" she'd say, her words cutting deeper than any physical wound. Amara longed for her father, who had always believed in her potential. At school, her teachers often praised her intelligence and determination, but at home, her achievements were ignored. "You'll never amount to anything," Evelyn spat one afternoon after finding Amara quietly reading a book instead of folding laundry. "Stop wasting time and do something useful." Despite the constant mistreatment, Amara held on to the small joys in her life. She cherished the moments when David stood up for her, sometimes even offering to help with her chores. "You don't have to do this," she'd tell him, but he'd shake his head stubbornly. "We're family, Amara. I don't want you to be alone." These glimmers of love kept her spirit alive, even as her mother's hatred grew more unbearable. Amara often wondered what she had done to deserve such cruelty, but resolved to stay strong for the sake of her brother. The tension between Evelyn and Amara reached its peak on an ordinary Sunday morning. Amara, exhausted from her endless chores, accidentally dropped a glass plate while cleaning the dining room. The shattering sound echoed through the house, and Evelyn stormed into the room, her eyes blazing with fury. "You ungrateful child! All you do is destroy everything in this house," she screamed, raising her hand. David tried to intervene, pleading, "Mom, it was just an accident. Please don't be angry." But Evelyn was unrelenting, her voice cold. "Stay out of this, David. She's not your responsibility." Amara stood frozen, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't mean to, Mom. I'm sorry," she whispered. But her apology only seemed to fuel Evelyn's rage. "You think sorry will fix everything? Get out of my house. I've had enough of you," Evelyn yelled, pointing to the door. Amara hesitated, her heart pounding with disbelief. "You can't mean that," she said softly, hoping her mother would take back her words. But Evelyn's expression was firm, and she repeated. David clung to his sister, crying, "Don't go, Amara, please!" But Amara knew there was no point in staying where she wasn't wanted. Gathering a small bag of her belongings, she hugged David tightly and whispered, "Take care of yourself, little brother. I'll always love you." With that, she stepped out into the cold, her tears mingling with the rain as she walked away from the only home she had ever known. As the door closed behind her, Evelyn felt a fleeting pang of regret, but quickly pushed it aside. "She'll learn to fend for herself," she muttered, convincing herself she had done the right thing. Meanwhile, Amara wandered the streets, her heart heavy with pain and betrayal. She had no idea where to go, but deep inside, she promised herself one thing. She wouldn't let this moment define her. Amara's journey seemed hopeless at first, but fate had other plans. A kind-hearted woman named Mrs. Chike, who ran a small bakery in the neighborhood, found her sitting on a park bench late at night. "What are you doing out here all alone, dear?" Mrs. Chike asked, her voice gentle. Amara hesitated before replying. "I have nowhere to go." The older woman saw the sadness in her eyes and immediately offered her shelter. "Come with me. You don't have to face this alone," she said, taking Amara under her wing. Mrs. Chike soon realized that Amara was not only hardworking, but also exceptionally intelligent. Encouraged by Mrs. Chike's support, Amara returned to school and excelled in her studies. Beyond academics, Amara discovered a talent for singing, a gift her father had often praised when she was younger. Mrs. Chike, noticing her potential, helped her attend local music competitions. "You have something special, Amara. Don't let anyone dim your light," she would say, her words filling Amara with hope. Amara poured her emotions into her music, using her pain as inspiration. Each song she wrote reflected her journey of resilience and determination. Her talent didn't go unnoticed, and soon she caught the attention of a record label executive who offered her the chance of a lifetime. "You have a voice that can touch hearts," he told her. With Mrs. Chike's blessing, Amara embraced this new chapter of her life, determined to make the most of it. Years of hard work paid off, and Amara's songs became anthems for people facing struggles. Her fame soared, but she never forgot where she came from. "This is just the beginning," she often said, her eyes shining with gratitude. Amara's success was not just a personal victory, it was proof that even in the face of adversity, dreams could come true. Amara's rise to fame was meteoric. Her songs resonated with millions, and she quickly became a household name. Interviews, magazine covers, and sold-out concerts became her new reality. But what set her apart was her humility and the way she used her platform to advocate for children facing neglect and abuse. "I know what it feels like to be unseen," she said during one interview, her voice filled with emotion. "No child should ever feel unloved or unwanted." Her music videos often depicted stories of resilience, inspired by her own life. Fans from around the world shared how her songs had given them hope and courage to overcome their struggles. Amara established a foundation to support underprivileged children, ensuring they had access to education and opportunities to follow their dream. "This is my way of giving back," she said, her heart full of gratitude for the second chance life had given her.
One day, as she was preparing for a major award ceremony, Amara received an unexpected call from David. "Amara, Mom wants to see you," he said, his voice hesitant. Amara's heart raced. She hadn't thought about her mother in years, but hearing David's plea stirred something inside her. "I'll think about it," she replied, unsure if she was ready to face the woman who had caused her so much pain. Evelyn, now older and frilier, sat alone in her small living room, staring at a magazine cover featuring Amara. The headline read, "From Rags to Riches, the inspiring journey of Amara Chike." Tears streamed down her face as she realized the daughter she had cast out had become a shining star. Memories of her late husband flooded back, and she heard his voice saying, "Our princess will do great things." The weight of her actions crushed her spirit. She regretted every harsh word, every act of neglect. "What have I done?" she whispered, clutching the magazine to her chest. When Amara finally decided to visit, Evelyn was overwhelmed with emotion. "Amara," she began, her voice trembling. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I want you to know I'm sorry." Amara looked at her mother, her heart torn between anger and compassion. "I needed you, Mom. But you weren't there for me," she said, her voice breaking. Evelyn nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know. And I'll never forgive myself for it." The story highlights how favoritism in a family can create deep emotional wounds. Evelyn's jealousy and preferential treatment towards David ultimately led to her estrangement from Amara. It teaches that favoritism can tear families apart and leave lasting scars, especially in the hearts of children. The powerful message lingers: the choices we make as parents can shape the lives of our children, for better or worse.